All the time she is happy.
She's beautiful. She was beautiful, pretty.
But it really hurts, Dominican, very beautiful. Such a thing like this, very, very sad.
Pale morning light spills down the cross-county parkway as it does every day. The first rays of sunlight sweep across the empty street, where only the faint hum of engines from those leaving the city early can be heard. But this morning, Sunday, August 17, 2025, does not last as long as usual. On an unnoticed stretch of road, a luxury car is parked unnaturally on the side of the road, eerily quiet. No honking, no movement, just silence, a silence that spreads like an unanswered question. Ariela Mejia Polanco, 33, has brightened even the longest Manhattan nights with her unmistakable smile and presence. She is a talented bartender at hot spots like Opus Lounge and a social media influencer with more than 500,000 followers. Ariela doesn't just mix drinks, she mixes the atmosphere, the mood, the lights, becoming La Langosta to the New York nightlife community. But that morning, the city woke up without Ariela. Mount Vernon, where she had last stopped, was not the place anyone expected to see the end of someone like her. Amid the tall buildings and the lights that had not yet been turned off, a silent question echoed in the heart of New York. Why did someone born to shine suddenly no longer answer the question, where is she? Sunday, August 17, 2025 at around 4:30 a.m., Ariela Mejia Polanco, known as La Langosta in the nightlife community, had just finished her shift at the popular Icon New York Lounge. Shining as she always did, she left the bar with a warm smile, packed the energy of a long night into a small bag, and walked to the luxurious Mercedes-Benz G-Class waiting outside the door. From Manhattan, the car began its journey through the Bronx, heading towards the suburbs. According to traffic camera data and the car's location, the trip went smoothly, without any unusual signals such as sudden braking or swerving like a trip home in the middle of the day. At around 8:00 a.m., the car came to a complete stop in the right lane of Cross County Parkway, near the Broad Street exit in Mount Vernon, about 20 miles from downtown. There was no sign of any trouble, everything was intact. The wheels were still smooth, the engine had stopped without a single squeal. Everything suggested that this was not a mechanical accident. At the time, no one had witnessed Ariela's last act. No erratic text messages, no calls of complaint, no sign of trouble on her part. She had posted a picture of the car on Instagram just hours earlier, gently opening up a normal moment that was still flowing through social media. There seemed to be no sign of urgency, no horn, no flashing lights. Everything was so quiet it was hard to believe it was real. The only picture that emerged was of the car standing there silently, in the middle of a morning where thousands of people had passed by, but no one knew what had just been interrupted. Every sign suggested an unannounced presence. She went to work like every Sunday, said goodbye to her colleagues, and disappeared into the quiet street. No one saw her return, not a single message from her confirming her safe arrival. At that silent moment, a life could not continue. A story that seemed normal ended in an unexplained void. And at this moment, people only knew the car and Ariela had stopped, but did that trip ever end in the true sense of the word? Sunday, August 17, 2025. The weather was damp and calm. The cross-county parkway had a hint of a normal weekend air. Around 8:00 a.m., a driver heading toward Broad Street suddenly noticed an SUV parked in the right lane. No stop sign, no hazard lights, just a car as quiet as anything else on the side of the road. He was urged to stop and approach. His vision through the foggy windshield was blurry, but then he realized something was wrong. He called 911, his voice shaking. I see a woman in a car not moving. Please come right away." In that moment, dawn was no longer light. It was a warning that something had quietly left the safety of life. A short time later, at around 8:05 a.m., police cars and an ambulance appeared, their lights flashing as if marking another dimension to Sunday. When the doors were opened, the rescue team saw a woman motionless inside the car, not moving, not breathing. The Mercedes-Benz G-Class was still locked from the inside, a detail that made everyone present feel sad. The paramedics quickly confirmed she was dead. In those moments, the air was more than just silent. It was so quiet it was heartbreaking. There was no sign of a struggle or chaos, just a piece of silence in the middle of the early Sunday morning road. The police immediately set up a blockade, putting up warning tape around the car. All the personnel on duty kept a close eye out, every gesture respectful of the person lying motionless in the cabin. There was no sign of any debris other than the cracked glass, no signs of jostling or disturbance, as if everything had been left as it was, waiting for a new explanation to be found. A rescue worker standing next to the vehicle told reporters later, "There was no sign of any external collision. Everything around here was strangely quiet." The first person to discover it later became a silent witness, his eyes still fixed on the 911 call, where his emotions were still bottled up. He was silent, his mouth repeating several times, "I just saw her lying there and then I couldn't understand." The early morning scene did not evoke the fear associated with accidents. It was as still as if life had stopped. There was no sound, no sign of chaos, just a scene that made people want to ask, why? Shortly after the scene was sealed off on the morning of Sunday, August 17, 2025, forensic and crime scene teams began their work at the location of the vehicle parked on the side of Cross County Parkway, near the Broad Street exit in Mount Vernon. The new daylight still gently touched the windshield, but the space had lost its usual normality. Experts noted clearly, the windshield was slightly broken, creating a delicate crack, no debris scattered around. The driver's seat had a slight indentation, as if someone had leaned on it for a brief moment. A bloodstain on the steering wheel and seat cushion was carefully collected, providing important biological evidence for the next steps of the investigation. According to the Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office, Ariella Mejia Polanco, 33, died from a gunshot wound, with the time of death determined to be approximately 8:00 a.m. On August 17, 2025, there was no sign of a sudden or accidental death, a clear indication that it was a deliberate act. One particularly interesting detail, the car was still locked from the inside, suggesting that the driver was either inside or had closed the doors before the incident. Although there were few footprints or foreign objects around the car, which was unusual for a Sunday morning with few people passing by, there were still enough to leave a trace. Samples of blood and seat material were carefully packaged and sent to the Forensic Science Department, where DNA, fingerprint, and other evidence tests will be conducted to determine exactly who had contact with or was present with the victim in the cockpit. Once the death was determined to be unnatural, investigators from the Westchester County Police Department, along with forensics and digital technology, began collecting every trace they could find. On the morning of August 17, 2025, at the scene where Ariella Mejia Polanco's Mercedes-Benz G-Class had come to an unnatural stop on the Cross County Parkway, they quickly compiled a list of points to look at: traffic cameras, the car's GPS, and private security cameras in residential areas along her route. The first focus was to reconstruct Ariella's final journey, using camera data from Aiken, New York, where she ended her shift at around 4:30 a.m. and traffic cameras on the freeway. The car's route was almost exactly recreated. There was no obvious tailing vehicle along the entire stretch, but there were several moments when the camera system was blind due to its location or vehicles blocking the view. Those obscure points, inadvertently, became important silences that made the case even more unpredictable. The first people invited to work with the investigation agency were colleagues at the bar, close friends, and some people in her recent contact list. According to the report, Ariella showed no signs of stress in her final days, still kept a regular work schedule, had a cheerful attitude, and did not share anything unusual. However, a waitress said that she had whispered during her recent shift, "I've been feeling a bit strange lately, as if I'm being followed." That statement was initially seen as just a normal expression of anxiety, but in this context, it suddenly became strangely important. Relationships in the nightlife world and social networks were also expanded lines of investigation. Ariella isn't just a bartender. She's also a major influencer on Instagram, where she goes by the name La Langosta, a sexy, high-profile influencer who has made her mark in New York's Latin community. Her posts are frequently retweeted, highly engaged, and feature celebrities, including rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine and Nee, who shot a music video with her in 2023 and has openly shared photos of the two getting along. From there, police approached members of the underground artist community and the music video production team. They focused on whether Ariella's relationships with the celebrities were personal or professional, and looked into any hidden conflicts that may have arisen from online interactions, online arguments, or even private messages that no one knew about. So far, everyone involved has cooperated, and no one has been named as a suspect. But the psychological twist is starting to creep in. Investigators suspect it wasn't a random act, but rather something to do with a romantic conflict, a professional conflict of interest, or worse, a fallout from her role as a witness in the 2018 trial against the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, where she was kidnapped and barely escaped. The case resulted in the conviction of several powerful underground figures, and Ariella became one of the most sensitive links. Although she has kept a low profile in the years since, no one is sure if the case is truly over. The police's cyber unit also stepped in, combing through Instagram, TikTok, messenger messages, and even work emails. Using AI technology, they identified hidden messages, from veiled threats to deleted conversations. Some of the accounts left rude comments, which appeared to be bots or fake accounts, but used very personal language suggesting that the creator might have known Ariella. All of this data was backed up and sent to a criminologist who analyzed the suspect's psychology. From a personal perspective, Ariella once shared in a small interview in 2024, "I love my night job, but sometimes it makes me feel like I live a double life." Those words suddenly resonated with meaning during the investigation. On one hand, she was a radiant figure, an icon of nightlife. On the other, she was still a mother of 2 young children, living a quiet life in Mount Vernon, seemingly isolated from the online world where she shined. With the resolution of the cameras and the help of the image AI system, investigators are getting closer to reconstructing the exact frame around the moment the car stopped. A police source said they spotted another SUV driving alongside Ariella's car for a short time, but the license plate was not clear enough to identify her. This opens up a new possibility. Could someone have approached her car without leaving a trace? In addition, information from the Westchester County Medical Examiner also played an important role in concluding that the time of death matched almost exactly when the car stopped, around 8:00 a.m. on August 17. This narrowed the suspected time frame to less than 30 minutes after she left the area where the last camera recorded her. Investigators are focusing on analyzing that unseen moment as a key factor in uncovering the whole truth. Currently, the case is still classified as an active investigation with no charges filed. All clues are being connected, and the investigation team is committed to not closing the case until the truth is brought to light. During that journey, Ariella's name became more than just a hashtag on social media. It became a symbol of her steadfast efforts to seek justice in the city that never sleeps. To date, no trial has been held for this case that has suddenly stirred up the community. No individual has been prosecuted, no case has been filed in court. Everything is still a mystery that has not been lifted. Although no witnesses have brought the case to court, everyone feels the anticipation of a decisive legal moment. In that silence, every police officer, relative, and investigator wonders, will the trial actually take place one day? In a possible future, if the testimony is strong enough, DNA evidence finally identifies the suspect, it is possible that the prosecution will take this case to court, where all the details will be made public. The arguments will be permeated under the gaze of official public opinion. It may be a preliminary hearing, or even a higher trial if the elements related to the crime show signs of complexity. Until then, though, it's all speculation. The General Investigations Unit is working through a rigorous legal process, from evaluating forensic evidence to presenting relevant testimony about Ariella's relationship with the artist community, to maintaining a robust case file so that if it comes to trial, everything is ready. A potential indictment could be filed in 2025 when the facts are complete and the elements are clearly established. If the Westchester County District Attorney's Office officially says there's enough evidence, people will see the first legal documents like a defendant, an arrest warrant, or a charge sheet appear in the system. Until then, grief hangs over her absence. Social media is filled with glowing images of La Langosta. The bar where she once worked still hangs a soft spotlight dedicated to her. The public smiles every time they remember her, but their eyes sparkle with an unanswered question. Will justice come? And when it does, will Ariella's story be heard fully and properly? As the city lights slowly dimmed, people realized that the void Ariella Mejia Polanco left behind was not just in a car stopped quietly on the side of the road. It was a void between unfinished stories, between two young children who still didn't understand why their mother didn't come home, and also in the heart of the New York nightlife community, a place that once lit up by her smile, her charm, and her spirit. That sudden departure made people stop and think for the first time, is the spotlight really a safe place? In a world where image and fame can define a career, Ariella is proof that fame does not protect anyone from reality. It can light up a life, but it can also make people vulnerable to things no one sees. Her story is a warning to all, that between light and darkness is only a heartbeat away. We admire celebrities, but rarely look at the real people behind social media, and that distance sometimes makes people lonely in the crowd. For society, the case is a wake-up call about the need for personal safety, transparency in investigation, and understanding from the public. No one deserves to be forgotten, especially when they once inspired and beautified this life with their sincere presence. Now, the question remains. In a space once filled with breath and light, can justice shine a final ray of light for La Langosta? Hopefully, the answer will come not only to close a case, but to open up a necessary awakening for a whole generation walking between light and silence.